All right. Hello, Colorado. This is John Baird with I Love Colorado Beer podcast. Today on our show, we have Keanan Stoner. He's the marketing director for Two Parts, which is affiliated with the Collaboration Festival that's coming up here very shortly. Keanan, would you tell us a little bit about who you are, who Two Parts is, and how you guys are affiliated with the Collaboration Festival?
Yeah, so my name's Keanan, as you said. I do all the marketing, meaning emails, social media, design. Basically, my job is to get people excited about the festivals that we throw. Um, and Two Parts, which is actually formerly Imbibe. Some people might know us as Imbibe. We just did a little bit of a rebrand to encompass a little bit more of what we do. But basically, we are partners in the event with the Colorado Brewers Guild. So it was kind of like the brainchild of both of us put together, decided, this collaboration thing is not just a trend. This is a beautiful thing, and we need to build something fun around it so we get more and more people involved from the brewing side and from the tasting side and get out there to enjoy some of the best beers that Colorado has to offer.
So, who had the first idea to have a beer festival called Collaboration Fest like this? I mean, where did that idea genesis? Where did that start?
So it was a few years ago, and it was right after Colorado Craft Beer Week had just happened, which has been going on for longer than Collaboration Fest has. And we were talking through. Our team was talking through, how to make it better, what comments that we got over the week. And one of the comments we got from somebody was asking, like, okay, hey, like, you guys feature all the Colorado breweries, but what if we invited some out-of-staters? They might be able to bring a few more people into the mix. You could kind of compare the beers, so on and so forth. And a comment was made on our team that was basically like, okay, like that's a cool idea, but we still want to really have Colorado brewers be at the center of this thing. So what if we made any out-of-staters that come to town brew with a Colorado brewery in order to be involved? And after we thought about it more and came back to the idea, we thought, this could be its own thing. We could have this be its own festival. And since its inception, now it's grown to be the key event of the entire week, and it kind of kicks it off every week. It's the headline. So it's grown a lot over the past 3 years. This year will be the third year and the biggest and best yet. And it all kind of just started of like, should we let other guys in, or should we just keep this Colorado? And it's a cool way to let other guys in and really kind of get involved with the camaraderie of craft beer generally and the culture, but in a cool way where Colorado brewers are still at the forefront.
Well, I like how you guys have it organized, because we interviewed different mechanics and they talk about they coined a term, or they used a term called co-opetition, which in the brewing guild, I mean, it's the guys all work together. It's amazing how that works out. But yeah, there's so much cooperation within the brewing community. So I love the idea of breweries collaborating together to make beers and working together like that. I think that's a wonderful idea. Was that sort of in the very beginning, you guys knew you wanted to have breweries to work together?
Yeah, I mean, it started as like a rule, like basically a requirement for out-of-staters, but we knew, that was kind of back towards when collaboration beers were not new, but getting a little bit more excitement, and they weren't quite as prevalent in the industry. But we knew, like, talking to these brewer guys who are our friends, that there's a lot of camaraderie in this industry. It's not, you don't see this hardly anywhere else, like, you don't see Nike and Adidas jumping together to make a collaboration shoe every day, right? Or Burger King and McDonald's, like making a collaboration burger. It's an industry where these guys want to learn from each other. They want to work together, and they know that, the more they work together, the more the industry benefits. So putting together these cool projects that get some extra press and get people excited is a benefit for everybody.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great idea. So, all right, you made the decision that you guys wanted to put on a beer festival. How do you even begin to start doing a beer festival? Like, all right, now we know we want to do a beer festival. What do you do? What's the next step?
So our biggest thing was getting the brewers on board for this one. We had the reach kind of in Denver to get people excited about it. We had a lot of followers on social media, email, and whatnot. But the biggest thing was the reason that the tickets are going to sell to this is getting the best guys in the industry to start brewing together and talking about it. And so we used our connection with Colorado Brewers Guild. Steve over there helped us really wrangle a lot of these breweries, get the information out. And then our background in festivals and that we've been doing that for a few years and had some successful beer festivals meant that we had a good enough reputation that when they got that email, they said, okay, I know both these guys. Steve's a good guy. The Two Parts team are good guys. You know, we're on board. Let's make this happen.
And then you put together all the other pieces of the puzzle, including like the venue and all that stuff as well?
Yeah. So we book a venue, we figure out a date. Those things, we've gotten pretty good at knowing all the different venues across town and kind of what capacity we want. And basically deciding, you know, do we want this to be more intimate or maybe a little bit larger? It depends a lot on how many breweries are coming and how much beer we ask them to bring. So it's kind of a lot of back end equations of how can we make everybody happy at the same time, have a successful event, and then think about how do we grow it following years.
Well, it seems like you'd have to get a lot of buy-in on the brewers as well because of what they're having to do with those collaboration beers and working together. And that sounds like it's a wonderful thing, but it would be more challenging than a regular beer festival because they can't just take their usual beer that they have on tap already. They have to brew a whole new beer collaboratively with everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the beginning it was a little bit more of a, hey guys, like here's the benefit. Let us pitch you on this thing and like make you believe. But now luckily everybody kind of knows what it's about, and we have people, we send out the initial announcement and it fills up pretty fast, and we have a lot of people asking to be involved that have never been involved before.
Yeah, well, I've talked to several different brewers that talk about the different beers that they've brewed in the past and how they're going to tweak them and change them for this year's festival and things like that. And that's always wonderful to see. Tell us just a little bit about the venue that you guys are going to be at. It sounds like it's going to be an interesting place to be, and how that works out with the crowd.
Yeah, so this is our second year at Sports Authority Field at Mile High. The first year we did it at the Curtis Hotel, which was cool, but we kind of immediately knew that that wasn't going to have enough capacity for us in the following year with how well it went and how excited people were. We knew there was going to be a lot of repeat buyers, as well as them telling all their friends about that they got to be there. So we ended up talking to the guys over at Sports Authority Field and figured out that, you know, when this falls, late March, the Broncos are no longer in season. So it works perfectly to rent it out on a Saturday afternoon. And they hooked us up with the club level that overlooks downtown Denver. It's an incredible spot. I mean, it's perfect for a beer festival. It's you know, it's got all these different bars and kind of a cool layout and these huge floor to ceiling 40-foot glass windows that you can see out in the city. And it's just kind of cool because it's all about Colorado beer, and right next to you, you're looking out the window and seeing Colorado sitting there. So it's a really cool venue. So we're going there again, building it slightly, but just kind of via the different layout and stuff. I think eventually we might start doing both sides of the club level, or who knows, you know, in future years, our goal is to grow this thing, but grow it in the right way where it doesn't become a mess, and it still becomes, you know, there's enough room to talk to the brewers and try a lot of the beers and have a good time.
So while people are sitting there and sampling and tasting those beers, can they go out and actually sit in the regular seats and look down at the field and everything?
They can, and it all depends on weather, right? Colorado in March, who knows what's going to happen. Last year, it ended up being like 75 and sunny. It was a beautiful day. We had a lot of people out in the stadium seats. We actually had some speakers out there. We had Lauren Salazar from New Belgium talking about her kind of barrel aging and souring programs and techniques. And she's standing out there in the sun while you're sitting in the bleachers and looking down at the field. It was really, really cool. So we hope to make that happen again, but we know that it also might be a snowy day here. So we're kind of ready for everything.
So there's a lot of different beer festivals that are around Colorado because people in Colorado love their beer. But what makes the Collaboration Festival a little bit different than the other ones, would you say?
I mean, I think the biggest thing, like we already talked about, the camaraderie, the willingness to work together. And these beers are just, it's insane. These are beers that you cannot get anywhere else. Like you said, you know, a lot of these guys can show up to whatever beer festival on the weekend with a keg of their usual stuff that's on tap in the draft room. Or you can go to Collab Fest and they might have only brewed 1 or 2 kegs of this thing, and it's the first time anybody is ever going to get to try it, and it's the last time they're ever going to get to try it. It's a pretty incredible lineup from the beer perspective. It's very very unique beers and a lot of limited edition type stuff. So I think that really is like what puts it over the edge as one of my favorite festivals that we do.
Would you say that the market or clientele for Collaboration Fest is a little bit different than it is for like GABF or some of the other beer festivals that are out there?
I think so. I mean, I think there is a good amount of overlap. You know, I think in Denver and Colorado, we've cultivated an army of craft beer drinkers that are interested in any different angle that you would want to kind of spin on a festival. But we do get a lot of those people who are buying tickets early, the VIP session, to get in early because they are all about the beer. And this festival really, like, we try to make it no gimmicks, no, you know, really it's about the beer, and we just focus all on that because that's really the best part of it. No matter what we try to add or spin or, you know, do at the festival, really, like, that's what people remember. So I think it does gain a little bit of that kind of beer geek crowd. But we're also like, we want to keep it accessible to everybody. You know, we want people to come in that don't necessarily know, you know, what the latest trend in brewing together is, or the latest, you know, things that are going on in the industry. And we want them to come in and just feel the good vibes of all these brewers working together and being stoked on what they produced.
So, on your website, you had a whole bunch of brewers listed as participants. Do you know what's the latest number for breweries that are going to be there and participating in the festival?
So this year is the biggest ever. We're looking at 149 breweries total. 88 beer projects, I think, is what we're kind of settling at for a total number, because some of them have 2 brewers, some of them have 3. Some of these breweries are involved in more than one project. So I think it'll be actually 88 beers to taste. And then these breweries, it's by far the widest range of brewers we've had. We've got 5 different countries involved this year, which is amazing. We've got like Sweden, Finland, Brazil. Who else? I'm missing a couple there, but like we've got a bunch of different countries. We've got 21 different states, which is by far the most brewers flying from across the US to be here. So it's a pretty impressive list, and we're really excited about it.
So did some of those international breweries, did they contact you? Did you contact them? How did you hook up with a brewery in Brazil?
Yeah. Well, a lot of the time it's the Colorado breweries, right? Because we reach out to them and say, hey, Collaboration Fest is coming up. And these guys, a lot of the ones that want to make a big splash, they sit down and brainstorm about, hey, what connections do we have? How do we show up with one of the coolest beers at the fest? And so these guys reach out to these international breweries, whether they met them, you know, on a travel abroad, or maybe they were at a brewing conference together. Who knows how they know these guys, but they have decided to brew together and reached out, and these guys have signed up and said, that's really cool. We want to get involved. And so they do a lot of it for us. They just want to come with like the best product, the coolest beer, the wildest brewery they could possibly collaborate with.
So on that note, will you tell us a little bit about some of the interesting beers and collaborations that you have coming there? That'll kind of put you on the spot there, just a few of them that you can think of off the top of your head, but I'm sure there's some interesting ones.
Yeah, I mean, the one that comes to mind first and foremost is one that I actually just updated our blog about on the Collaboration Fest site. It's this incredible beer that Ska and Epic are brewing together. It's near and dear to me because I grew up in Durango, so Ska was kind of like my hometown brewery, and that's, you know, some of the first craft beer that I ever had. Anyhow, they brewed together. They're brewing a barrel-aged peach IPA, which is kind of cool because it puts together a lot of their different kind of strengths, where Epic has the whole Brainless series, which is fruity and delicious, and then Ska has Modus and Decadent and some of these big hoppy beers, and you know, they're going to put it in barrels and bring it to the fest. It's also really cool because the way that they're brewing it, they decided that, you know, if you're trying to brew a hoppy beer, you kind of want those bright, sharp notes from the hops to come through. That doesn't always mix with barrel blending because a lot of times that kind of smooths things out. So they're actually brewing it in 2 batches and blending it right before the fest. One that'll be aged in barrels that's a little less hoppy, one that's going to be kind of your ultra hoppy. Mix them together, and then you'll get the best of both worlds, ideally.
Yeah, that's interesting because I know that you lose some of those hoppy flavors and tones, and you can also lose some of the fruity flavors after it sits for a while in barrel ages. So that's an interesting way to put those two together.
Yeah, it's really cool when we learn about that type of stuff. Another one that I know is coming down the line, I don't know what they're brewing yet, but we've got Ninishims, I believe is how you say it. They're out of Sweden, and this is actually their second time being in Collaboration Fest. They were here for the very first one. They brewed with Ska, and then this year they're back and they're brewing with Telluride, I believe. So kind of cool to see them coming back, and they're across the Atlantic Ocean there, and they're interested in coming back to the fest and doing another beer for it. So really cool to see those guys coming back. I haven't gotten word on exactly what they're brewing yet, but I'm sure it's going to be delicious.
Are there any of the breweries that come to mind off the top of your head, the little guys that aren't well known yet that are coming and participating?
I mean, there's a handful of the ones in Denver that just opened. I think Little Machines coming. Call to Arms has a couple big ones coming. We love both those guys. They're making great beer. Cerebral, I think, just brewed one with our mutual friend. Those are both kind of smaller guys, but as we know, OMF won a medal this year at GABF, so kind of cool to see those guys blowing up, and then getting involved with the Cerebral crew. And then we've got, True Brewery just brewed one with Great Divide. Those are both good friends of ours, and they brewed a style that really neither of them is kind of expert in. So it's kind of cool for them to put their heads together and try something different. And I'm sure it'll be great because they're both incredible brewers and they get the science behind it all. But to see them push outside their comfort zone is really cool too. So there's some projects that are all Colorado breweries, and then we've got those kind of big name ones reaching out to different breweries. We've got Green Flash coming, Ballast Point I think is coming, Sweetwater out of Atlanta is coming. We've got some Brooklyn ones. It's really cool to see it all come together.
So this is the third year that you guys have had this festival. You already were talking about next year. You guys are planning on doing it again?
Oh, absolutely. I think we're trying to build this into a bigger fest, like I said, but without kind of making it a mess, but also make it into kind of a bigger weekend where we're just talking about collaboration in general. Whether that's in the beer world or we're playing with some ideas this year of if we do an after party, maybe having some bands collaborate with each other, something like that. Nothing set in stone yet, but we're really trying to make this a destination thing because in our eyes, Denver and Colorado are the capital of the craft beer world. There's some other states out there who don't agree with us. I don't think they're correct, but we're trying to basically make this into one thing that we can really point to and say, here's exactly why we are the capital of craft beer.
Yeah, quite obviously those other states are incorrect. What about some of the other things you guys have going on? You mentioned some bands. You guys are going to have like games and activities and things like that?
At the fest itself, we might have some small education pieces like we did last year. If you want to jump outside and listen to a seminar or something, we're not sure yet. We also might move those things into kind of the week prior and after during Colorado Craft Beer Week, where the topic is collaboration. But again, the festival itself, we really just want to focus on the beer and then kind of have some supporting programming leading up to and after, but have the beer really be the showcase at the festival.
Sure. So in the last years, have you guys had any problems or issues that you guys have had to tweak or fix or correct? I'm sure that there were always little things that came up, but
I think honestly the biggest one, and it's really not a problem, is that some of these breweries last year got so excited that they were submitting 5-6 projects each, which is great. I mean, we love that we love that they're passionate about it. This year we decided to limit it to just 2 per brewery, just to make sure that we get that breadth of beers and breadth of brewers kind of working together, and that we could let a lot of the other guys in this year versus having a lot of the slots or space in the place taken up by 1 or 2 breweries that submitted a lot of different projects. So we're trying to limit that, let more people get involved and give the taster a huge wide variety of beers to taste from a lot of different guys that they either love and adore or maybe that they've never even heard of, but might leave thinking, man, I got to go check that place out.
Well, Keanan, is there anything that we haven't talked about yet that you think would be important for our listeners to know about the festival?
I would just say, we'd love to have you out. Check out our blog, check out our website, and learn a little bit more about what's going on if you're still on the fence. Get tickets sooner than later. This thing is starting to become, it's got a lot of momentum and a lot of people are interested in coming. And so tickets are selling well. So don't delay on that. We'd hate to see you miss out on the opportunity. But dig around. We've got the blog I've been trying to update 2-3 times a week if I can. I'll likely throw this podcast up on there. And, you know, we're trying to get new content there so that you guys can kind of get the story of Collab Fest as we lead up to the festival and get excited about certain beers and things going on. So yeah, just check it out.
Great. Well, will you tell our listeners where they can find out more information and get tickets and everything like that?
Yeah, so if you just go to collaborationfest.com, that's where everything lives. You'll see on there we've got a pretty built out website of everything going on. You can check out what happened last year. We've got a lot of photography. We've got information about the projects of this year. We've got links out to our social media channels. You know, the list of breweries, you can see all 149 of them there. Soon here we'll be rolling out more details on the exact projects. But a lot of these guys are still brewing right now, so we're kind of collecting that as we can. But yeah, collaborationfest.com is where you'll find everything you need.
And then you guys are on Facebook and Twitter and all that. What's your Facebook handle and all that?
So it's all basically Two Parts Co. So Twitter is at Two Parts Co. Same with Instagram, and then Facebook.com/2partsco will get you there.
And then you very generously offered our listeners a discount code for their tickets. Would you tell us about that?
Yeah, so we'll give you $5 off if you see this and decide to pull the trigger and come join us. We'd love to have you. So for $5 off, either a GA or VIP ticket, use I Love Colorado Beer. It's in all caps as your promo code, and that'll lock you in $5 off so that we can make sure to see you at the fest.
Well, awesome. Keanan, thank you so much for doing this interview with us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome. Cheers.
Cheers.